rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective with Rick Thomas. That's me, your host. Oh my goodness, I got to tell you now, this is being like almost the end of the third week of doing this, having it every single night, well, except Sundays. Kind of interesting, I must admit, having to adjust and change how things do. How like in my personal life, realistically, in order to make sure that I am available for you folks. But we're going to see what happens. I will have some announcements coming up, I'm sure, about upcoming things, times where I probably won't be broadcasting, just because of the fact that we are getting to the end of the school year in particular. And my daughter is a senior in high school. She is graduating this year. So there will be some things that are coming up, and yeah. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know what's going on. It's not a big deal. All right, let's go ahead and get tonight started off with a brand new, just in, hot off the presses, Pledge of Allegiance from My News 61 over on Rumble. Thank you very much for sending it. So here we are in her debut of saying the pledge. Please, if you are of mind, stand and remove your hats, put your hand over your heart, and join with My News 61 as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, My News, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like to get your version and rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance on the program, please go ahead and just record yourself reciting the pledge in your style, and then send it in to me at fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation for bringing that up. So there we go. Thank you very much for that submission. That is fantastic. I do appreciate and love listening to all my Whiskey Warriors recite the Pledge of Allegiance because of this great, fantastic country that we call home. All right. Tonight's sponsor is the Institute on the Constitution, which was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC. Oh, I lost myself. IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online, and my Rumble fans are already lining up, getting ready for, or if you would like to just purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution. To support the show, you can go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Check this thing out. It has an eighth of an inch of Saddleback leather that surrounds it and protects the tear-resistant and water-resistant pages and the precious information inside. It is stitched not with a just a glued-on binding, but actual threaded, stitched binding all the way through. And that is part of the reason why they can provide a 100-year warranty against material defects and workmanship. If something goes wrong in 100 years having this thing, you can send it back, and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It has rounded corners, those sexy rounded corners, and all of the amendments inside are in numerical order using Roman numerals. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has been able to pass his civics exam in Scouts for his badge, of course. So the information in here is true and correct. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and pick yours up today. It is a family heirloom. Pass it down. It's, good enough. You can put it out to all of your family members. You can stick it in their stockings for stocking stuffers. I did that this past Christmas. And it's never too early to pick those up. Anyway, go to constitution.americanperspective.online and pick yours up today. Also, don't forget to check out the Institute on the Constitution and support them as well. I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate of theirs. All right. So I've been holding off, honestly, on talking about this because, whenever you have a series of events like this and a series where you're kind of wondering what the heck is going on. And, it's always important to be not first, but to be accurate when you talk about some of these things. Now, when a series started showing up, a series of these events started occurring, a lot of people started blaming things like DEI. And I was hesitant to say anything because of the fact that, jumping the gun can be just as detrimental to your God, I just lost what I was going to say. Is just as detrimental to your accuracy and your integrity as being, spewing a whole bunch of facts and evidence that don't exist, which would essentially be lies. But this is kind of interesting. I'm just going to say that this is kind of interesting. Now, we've already known about the planes that have been having problems. Things like wheels falling off, things like, that Alaska Airlines flight that had to get diverted and returned to the Portland International Airport because the door insert came loose and pulled out. Well, we also, if you've been watching, have also seen a couple of the quote-unquote Boeing whistleblowers have mysteriously passed. And there's been a lot of conspiracy theories running around about it, but here is one whistleblower that has come forward and been able to put it on the record now with regards to what potentially would be happening. Here in Fox 2 Now, Boeing whistleblower says he was pressured to hide defects. and this is from The Hill, a former quality inspector at Boeing's largest parts supplier said Wednesday that he was pressured to hide defects found in airline parts, adding to scrutiny over the company's quality control of its 737 aircraft. Santiago Paredes, Paredes, just how it's spelled, worked for over a decade as an inspector at a company called Spirit Aerosystems, which is Boeing's largest parts manufacturer. And he told CBS News and the BBC that he wasn't surprised when missing door bolts led to an entire 737 MAX door plug blew out on an Alaska Airlines flight midair in January. That's the one I was referring to. Why did it happen? Because Spirit let go of a defect that they overlooked because of the pressure that they put on the inspectors, Santiago said. If the culture was good, those issues would be addressed, but the culture is not good. He said he would see hundreds of defects in parts on a regular basis, even earning the nickname Showstopper from the higher-ups for how frequently he slowed production due to his inspections. They always made a fuss about why I was finding it, why I was looking at it, he said. They just wanted the product shipped out. They weren't focused on the consequences of shipping bad fuselages, he said. They just were focused on meeting the quotas, meeting schedule, meeting the budget. And if the numbers looked good, the state of the fuselages didn't really matter. Now, the FAA, after the Alaska Airlines incident, grounded all similar, now he's saying 787, or the article is saying the 787 MAX aircraft, and did a complete investigation of the company's parts and quality control infrastructures. And federal investigators said the company's safety culture was inadequate and confusing. So after Santiago complained that Spirit management changed the defect protocol to encourage less reports, he said he was demoted. So there's a potential here, just so you understand, there's a potential here that there could be a bit of I wouldn't say it's a conspiracy, but more of a pressure from a company that might not be operating in good enough monetary, shall we say, fiscal waters, that is attempting to increase or at least gain more profits at the expense of potential safety issues. And in fact, the FAA is questioning, and now they're even saying that the FAA is going to open a probe. This from American Military News. The Federal Aviation Administration said on Monday it has opened a new investigation into potential manufacturing quality lapses on Boeing's 787 Dreamliner after Boeing admitted that inspection records on work at the wing-to-body joint were falsified at the jet's final assembly site in South Carolina. Boeing informed the FAA in April that on some 787s, the company may not have completed the required inspections to conform adequate bonding and electrical grounding where the wings join the fuselage body. Interesting. I haven't heard of any wings falling off any planes recently. But, yeah, once the microscope starts coming out, next thing you know, all kinds of things start showing up. Now, I know that there have been wheels that have fallen off. I've seen that before. I mean, we've seen reports on that happening. Yeah, this is kind of a little scary if you're planning on flying. anytime in the near future. Yeah. Some scary thought. But anyway, on April 29th, Scott Stocker, who is the 787 Vice President and General Manager at Boeing's assembly plant in North Charleston, South Carolina, sent a message to all employees there telling him that one employee had noticed what was going on and spoke up about it internally. His manager informed executives of the lapse. Stocker wrote, "After receiving the report, we quickly reviewed the matter and learned that several people had been violating company policies by not performing a required test, but recording the work as having been completed. Our engineering team has assessed this misconduct did not create an immediate safety of flight issue, but it will impact our customers and factory teammates because the test now needs to be conducted out of sequence on airplanes in the build process," Stocker added. Stocker told employees in the message that Boeing has a zero tolerance for not following processes designed to ensure quality and safety. He said Boeing promptly informed the FAA and is taking swift and serious corrective action with multiple teammates. Stocker also praised the employee who first flagged the problem. So this is a different problem than what I was just talking about. Very, very, very interesting. I don't know about you, but I'd be questioning. I honestly, I'd be questioning getting on a 787 Dreamliner. Yeah. I don't know. This kind of interesting. Yeah. Yep. I'd be questioning flying right now if I were you. Okay. So switching over to politics really quick, changing subjects, of course. Ohio is now announcing that it may not be able to put Joe Biden on the ballot. Boy, wouldn't that be kind of a interesting? Yeah, that would be kind of an interesting conundrum, don't you think? So earlier this month, and I didn't really talk about it. I kind of mentioned it once, I think, but I didn't really talk about it ad nauseum. But earlier this month, apparently there was a situation in Alabama where Joe Biden had been in danger of not appearing on the ballot in November because of Democrats scheduling snafus. And Alabama Republicans actually generously just basically said, all right, we'll take care of it for you. And they granted the Democrats an exemption. Well, now Biden is facing the exact same situation in Ohio, caused by the same types of scheduling issues. However, this time, Ohio GOP has not seemed to be in such a generous mood. And a measure intended to resolve the issue and allow Biden to be on the ballot anyway, passed by the state Senate, was stalled in their state house without a vote. So, yeah. So what happened here, just so you understand, is that the House actually created and passed a bill that would have granted the Democrats an extension already. And then it went to the Senate. But then rather than voting on that particular measure, the Senate introduced its own bill to do the extension, but also included a provision that banned foreign contributions to the state ballot measure campaigns. And so just so you understand, these states kind of operate the same way the federal government does, which is essentially you have the House and the Senate. And if the House makes a bill and passes it and sends it over to the Senate, then the Senate has to either accept the bill as written, or they could change it, or they could create their own. And that's what they ended up doing, is they created their own. Well, since they created their own, that means that when they pass it, they have to send their version to the House. And then the House would have to approve it in order for it to, of course, become law by ultimately having the governor sign the bill, or the president, in the case of federal government. That's kind of the way the government works. Well, the problem is that when the Senate did that, the two bills don't match, and so they would need to be reconciled, or the House GOP, the House, could abandon their bill that they created and take up a vote on the Senate version. But there's no announcement as to whether or not the vote would take place. And this article was written today, so there wasn't anything today that would indicate what they're going to do. So now it's a possibility that if the bill's not passed appropriately, there is a potential that Joe Biden is going to miss the deadline, or at least his campaign is going to miss the deadline, to where he might not make it onto the ballot in Ohio. Now, wait a minute. I seem to recall Ohio being a, shall we say, swing state, or at least one of the ones that helps to elect the president, because it's constantly in there. It's constantly used as a bellwether state, by the way, too. And according to this, that if we end up with Joe Biden failing to make the ballot, well, all of his supporters would have to write his name in. For one, that's one thing that they could do. Whether that would produce some sort of a negative impact on Biden numbers, nobody really knows, because we've never had a sitting president actually show up as a write-in candidate before. Also, an additional piece is that as more and more locations adopt digital scanners and other electronic voting machines, submitting a write-in candidate's name can be more complicated, which would slow down the counting in Ohio on election night, if nothing else. Well, I mean, let's face it, the GOP realistically should just pass the bill, one of the bills, just pick it and pass it. I don't know. But we'll have to see what happens with this. It would be kind of curious, though, if this was used as this might be used as a reason for getting Joe Biden out of the candidacy, because he's polling so freaking bad. But anyway, we'll have to see. This is not the only time. This is not the first time, by the way. I mean, RFK Jr. is having problems and having issues getting on ballots throughout the country. But, again, for the first time ever to have a sitting president, for having a sitting president become a write-in, yeah, that's interesting. Apparently, side note, apparently I just sounded, when I did the slow down part, I sounded like when Coco Dominguez's boombox batteries were dying back in the day. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay. Moving on. Well, it's official, folks. It is official. Joe Biden is backing Hamas. Joe Biden, let me say that again. Joe Biden is backing Hamas. Joe Biden doesn't want Israel to go into Rafah. Joe Biden doesn't want Israel to get rid of a very prolific terrorist organization. Joe Biden wants Israel to leave Hamas alone. Why? Well, he had an interview last night on CNN where he just single-handedly reversed all policy, long-standing U.S. policy, by the way, and declared that he's not going to send precision weapons shipments to Israel should the IDF go further, deeper into Rafah. Yes, folks, that's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to do.
I want to ask you about something happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of the Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
So, just to understand what they're doing right now in Rafah, is that not going into Rafah as you define it yet?
They haven't gone into the population centers. What they did is right on the border, and it's causing problems with right now in terms of with Egypt, which I've worked very hard to make sure we have a relationship and help. But I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go into these population centers.
All right. So there you have it, folks. There you have it. He does not want Biden. He does not want Israel to go after Hamas. Now, there, according to the town hall article that I'm talking through, they estimate approximately 8,000 Hamas terrorists are in Rafah with hostages. And this declaration, of course, allows Hamas to stay alive and forces Israel to lose the war, which essentially was to eliminate Hamas and get them out of there. Now, what Joe Biden doesn't seem to get, and what a lot of people who are dealing with this don't seem to understand. Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, Turkey, all of our semi-allies in the Middle East that are Arab nations, they want Hamas gone. They don't want Hamas there. In fact, Egypt doesn't even want the freaking Palestinians. They won't even take, none of the Arab countries over there will even take the Palestinian refugees. They won't, because they don't want them there. They know that they're a problem. They know they're an issue. They know that, 75% up to 80% of them in the Gaza Strip voted for Hamas to be their governing body back in 2006. They know this. Now, Biden has tried to sit on the fence and basically talk about, Israel and being a supporter of Israel and how they're going to take care of Israel. And even he tried to do it in this interview that I just played for you. But the reality of it is that Biden wants Hamas to survive. He wants them to stay alive. Now, here's part of the problem, though. And this kind of hits to the crux of the matter, to be real about this, is the fact that once a bill has been passed by Congress and signed by the president and it goes into law, there's a bit of a problem with the idea that the president all of a sudden decides to change his mind on something. You got to remember the president and the governor. I mean, if you really want to look at it at the state level, the president is there to execute laws, meaning take those laws that are created and make sure they're carried out. Well, by doing what he's doing, by pausing these bombs, okay, by pausing these bombs, it's a potentially impeachable offense because he is not doing his job. Now, the Pentagon chief was on the Hill today, and let me see. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, who, by the way, for anybody that remembers, disappeared for a couple of days, maybe a week or whatever. But anyway, the Pentagon chief said that the U.S. paused the bombs to Israel over Rafah concerns. And he actually got into it a little bit with Lindsey Graham. Now, Lindsey Graham is no friend of the conservative movement at all. In fact, he's not really much of a friend of the Republicans anyway, but every once in a while, a broken clock is right twice a day. And so, him ripping into Lloyd Austin on the stand it was kind of interesting to see. And here is a little clip of it, thanks to C-SPAN and through X.
Would you have supported dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, General Brown, in World War II?
Well, Senator, I think just based on the situation where
Well, we know. I mean, it's happened. We know. I'm not asking that they did it. Do you think that was disproportionate?
it was definitely.
Well, do you, in hindsight, do you think that was the right decision for America to drop 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities in question?
Well, I'll tell you, it stopped the World War.
Okay. Well, so we had a. Do you agree, General Austin? If you'd been around, would you say drop them?
I agree with the chairman here.
I mean, if we go back in time, says, hey, we got 2 atomic bombs, should we drop them? What would you say?
Well, I think the leadership was interested in curtailing the.
Well, what's Israel interested in? Do you believe Iran really wants to kill all the Jews if they could? The Iranian regime, yeah. Do you believe Hamas is serious when they say we'll keep doing it over and over again? Do you agree that they will if they can?
I do. Hamas,
okay, right. Do you believe that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization also bent on the destruction of the Jewish state?
Hezbollah is a terrorist organization.
Okay, so Israel's been hit in the last few weeks by Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, dedicated to their destruction. And you're telling me you're going to tell them how to fight the war and what they can and can't use when everybody around them wants to kill all the Jews? And you're telling me that if we withhold weapons in this fight, the existential fight for the life of the Jewish state, it won't send the wrong signal? Do you still think it was a good idea, General Austin, to get out of Afghanistan?
I support the president's decision.
Yeah, I think you do. I think it was a disastrous decision. If we stop weapons necessary to destroy the enemies of the state of Israel at a time of great peril, we will pay a price. This is obscene. It is absurd. Give Israel what they need to fight the war they can't afford to lose. This is Hiroshima and Nagasaki on steroids.
Okay, so, again, Lindsey Graham is no friend of the right, but when he hits on the proper things, he's not wrong here. He's not wrong. See, one thing that has to happen with this fight over in the Middle East is basically an understanding that Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis are all third-party terrorist arms of the Iranian regime. Now, Donald Trump had the Iranians backed up against the ropes. He had them hemmed in. He had their money cut off. He had their potential ability to get a nuclear weapon cut off by removing America from the peace accords, from the Paris, not the Paris Climate Agreement, but the nuclear agreement that we had with them. And he had their, he had targeted one of their top end individuals for the, for their training and their training of the terrorists, the Soleimani guy. He had him hemmed in. He had him hemmed in. And so, for that kind of situation, Donald Trump kept America in the best possible place that we could have been in terms of the world in that part of the world in the Middle East. And so this whole situation, when Lindsey Graham, what Lindsey Graham was saying is actually correct. He was correct. We will pay a price for not standing up, for not going with and protecting our one singular long-term ally, the one and only country in that part of the world that is a Western culture in that part of the world and embraces a Western culture. And he is going to keep, we need to help them out. We really do. And Biden has been wrong on every single foreign decision, foreign policy decision in his entire career. We're not talking about just, just him being the president. He's been wrong. No, he's been wrong his entire career on all of this. And so for him to sit here and make this decision by undercutting, this is just like Afghanistan. Biden wanted to get out of Afghanistan because he felt that was something that was going to give him points. And just like Obama said, never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. Joe Biden effed it up. Because Joe Biden effed it up, we now have a dark spot, a blank spot, a shadow in that part of the world, and ISIS has returned and has taken over that area with the Taliban. And we do not have any intelligence operations within that space. We also left a bunch of Americans over there. Joe Biden doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. He literally does not give a shit about the Americans there. And now, by pulling back or trying to make Israel pull back out of Rafah, we have Americans who were caught that are part of the hostages We haven't heard a single damn word about any of them. And yet he's leaving them behind. Now, I was in the military. I didn't do like what Joe Kent and Sean Parnell and, I didn't go into battle. I'm not a combat vet, but I am a vet. And I can tell you one thing in particular is that you never leave Americans behind. Never leave them behind. Biden doesn't care about America, folks. All he cares about is his 10% and keeping power. That's all that matters. That's all that matters to Biden. Well, the question that we have, honestly, nowadays is it bad enough yet? Is it bad enough to where things are going to turn around? And I got to tell you, by seeing some of the polls, and again, not taking any one particular poll worth its grain of salt, okay? But, not taking any one poll as a grain of salt, a trend is what you're looking for. Well, there are some areas of the country that have been staunchly Democrat that are actually beginning to kind of show the signs of waking up in deep blue Chicago. Yeah. Chicago voters, this in Fox News, Chicago voters send message to Biden ahead of visit. City is completely fed up with Democrats. Betty GETTR tells Fox and Friends First, Black residents are ready to support Trump as migrants trigger outrage. Yeah. I guess P. Ray Easley and Betty GETTR joined Fox and Friends First on Wednesday to explain why they think the city is no longer the Democrat stronghold that they anticipated. Easley said, the city is completely fed up with the Democrat Party. We are stepping over illegals every day. They are now trying to break into people's homes. Gas is through the roof. Groceries are through the roof. Violence is up. Nothing is comfortable here under Democrat leadership. We are all moving on. GETTR explained that the Democrat Party has always counted on support from the black community, but now Democrats seem to have stopped trying to appeal to black votes or voters. GETTR continued, so many of our black members have decided to change over, switch from blue to red, and I think it's kind of too late now to come to Chicago to appeal to us. It's nothing here for him. We are fed up. Easley also agrees and thinks more voters are going to vote Trump despite Biden winning the city in 2020 by a landslide. She said the situation is changing quickly because of the Democrats' policies on migrants. Easley said, I think they're definitely going to vote for Donald Trump because we can't afford to keep subsidizing the illegals who are coming here. People who are proudly stating that they're going to vote for the first time in their lives and they're going to run to the polls to vote for Donald John Trump. Is it bad enough yet? I think it's starting to get there. I think it's starting to get there. We've got some time between now and the actual voting, folks. We have got to get out and start pushing this. I'm doing it through the program. You can do it by pointing some of your friends to some of the other programs. It doesn't matter if it's mine or if it's Sean Parnell's or if it's Wendy Bell Radio or if it's any or Dan Bongino, Mark Levin, any of these programs. They are all good because we are all talking about the same thing. Joe Biden is garbage. The Democrats are garbage. They've been garbage ever since they started their crap way back in 1865. And they just want to continue that kind of thing. You know, we've talked about it on this program about the soft bigotry of low expectations, and they still have it. I talked about it last night with the voting. Yeah, they still have it. They're still discussing it. They are still pushing it. They still believe, regardless of what anybody tells them, but they still believe that people of color are too stupid to know what they want, or too stupid to get an ID, or too stupid to understand how things work. That they need government assistance in order to survive, that they need to live on the Democrat plantation. And that is not the truth. That is not the truth. All right. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene has tried to do what I think is just a completely stupid strategic move. Now, I understand the idea behind it. I understand the sentiment behind it. But again, she went ahead and put out a bid to oust Johnson from the speakership. Now, she thinks that it's the uniparty. I'm not entirely sold on that idea, although I do believe that there is a uniparty. Don't get me wrong. Okay. Government itself and politicians themselves are not your friends. They are tools and means to an end. Okay. But at the same time, though, we have to think strategically, especially at this juncture. Thankfully, her desire to be in the news cycle, I think, has overtaken her strategic thinking in terms of all of this. Okay. I understand that that Johnson does need to go. I get it, but I think the timing is off. Well, her bid to oust Mike Johnson was resoundingly put down by not only the House Republicans, but most House Democrats went and followed it as well. So the vote was 359 to 43 in favor of tabling the motion to vacate. And there were 7 that vote present. For those of you that don't know, present is sort of like, I don't really care. I'm just here. And the thing about it is, though, is that, again, a lot of people don't seem to understand this. I don't know. If Johnson were to get ousted and we ended up with a, God forbid, Hakeem Jeffries as speaker, all of the fantastic work that Jim Jordan has been doing, that James Comer has been doing, that we've been getting, all of that information that we've been getting that's been leaked, all of that crap stops. A Democrat gets in charge and all of that documentation is gone. All of that work is gone. So it's not just about what's passing in terms of bills. We already know that the bills are going to pass. Give me a break. We have such a razor-thin majority that it's not even funny. What we have to do now from a strategic sense is keep Johnson in, okay? Keep Johnson in so that we can keep doing the work. Because, again, whether Joe Biden gets ousted, whether any of this information really does anything in terms of a legal sense, it is doing something, because there are people like myself and other conservative folks that are picking up that information and broadcasting it out to the world. And the key you have to remember is that for those of you who are watching this program on a regular basis and are in the same camp as what I am, you guys already know all the information. You already have your decision. You're going to vote for Trump already. But it's the people, it's the independents that, by the way, a MSNBC panel, I don't have the clip, but an MSNBC panel was shocked at the number of independents that were actually swapping from Biden over to Trump. That's how we are going to win. That's how we are going to win. And the only way for us to continue that against the forces of darkness that we are facing in the Democrats is to keep pushing and bringing out and shutting down their narrative by bringing out the truth, putting it out into the light, and letting people examine it and understand that what they are seeing and what they have been doing and what they've been dealing with all this time is nothing but a lie. That is what the purpose of the James Comers, the Jim Jordans, the all of the independent media. That's what we're here for. That's what we need to do. And we can't do that if that information gets buried. And that progress that's been made and moved forward with on all of these committees stops. So unfortunately, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I know you're a Spitfire. I think you're on the right side of everything, but by the same token, we need to make sure that we think strategically with this. Fight back for certain, because the traditional Republicans haven't really been doing that. Fight back for certain. But we've got to make sure that we don't make stupid moves. The Democrats right now are imploding. Joe Biden is on the ropes. He is the most unlikable candidate for re-election in history right now. His supposed heir apparent in Kamala Harris is even worse than he is. And they have nobody else to go to. We've got them on the ropes. Let's keep them there. Let's keep them there. Things like the Hunter Biden laptop and the discovery of all of that, the discovery of all of Joe's and Hunter Biden's underhanded dealings and violations of the FARA Act and all of those things is exactly what we need right now to be able to put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, of the Biden administration. And throwing things like this out in front of everybody, I mean, all that does, honestly, is just distract. You let things work as they are. I understand Johnson's not our guy, and I get it. He started out being potentially a really good conservative, but he's not. We know that now. We know that something happened to him, whether he got compromised or whatever else. I don't know. And he's not going to be our guy moving forward, provided that we win the House back, and we can potentially win both the House and the Senate with this entire thing. People are getting tired of this. We can really push and get both houses of Congress and the presidency all in one fell swoop. But we have got to play our cards right. And I just think her timing is off on this. And when we do get into power, Donald Trump needs to clean up the three-letter agencies. What am I talking about here? Well, this just came out. The FBI has confirmed that it's restarting its online censorship efforts ahead of the 2024 election. The FBI, even though the Murphy versus Missouri hasn't been decided by the U.S. Supreme Court yet, but at the time that the oral arguments were going on, Senator Mark Warner, who is a Democrat from Virginia, the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, told reporters that federal agencies such as the FBI and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, have restarted discussions with big tech platforms. According to NextGov FCW, this coordination will focus on removing disinformation on their sites as the November presidential election nears. Warner claimed that those talks resumed in March. An FBI representative confirmed to the Federalist when pressed on the validity of Warner's remarks that the agent has actually resumed communications with social media companies ahead of the 2024 election. The representative claimed the FBI remains committed to combating foreign malign influence operations, including in connection with our elections. That effort includes sharing specific foreign threat information with state and local election officials and private sector companies when appropriate and rigorously consistent with the law. In coordination with the Department of Justice, the FBI recently implemented procedures to facilitate sharing information about foreign malign influence with social media companies in a way that reinforces that private companies are free to decide on their own whether and how to take action on that information. Now, I saw an article, I was going to talk about it last night, but I saw an article that Google has also stepped up their stuff. They're starting to step up their suppression of information on the Republican side. And I can guarantee you Google is a left-wing organization. They're going to, in fact, I won't be surprised if YouTube cuts this video off. But, yeah. So the FBI is going to kick this off and keep doing what they were doing, what they supposedly were doing before. Hopefully it won't be quite as bad. And Judge, sorry, quick transit. DuckDuckGo is not that much better. I use Brave. But anyway, the point is that Murthy versus Missouri is currently being decided upon. And it's going to be interesting to see when that comes out. Now, U.S. District Court Judge Terry Doty issued a preliminary injunction in July of 2023 barring federal agencies from colluding with big tech to censor posts that they don't like, which, of course, kicked off the SCOTUS thing. In his ruling, Doty wrote, "If the allegations made by the plaintiffs are true, the present case arguably involves the most massive attack against free speech in United States history." The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Doty's injunction in September, just to kind of give you a rundown of that whole thing, while the initial ruling got stayed by the Supreme Court. And has effectively allowed the federal government's censorship operations to resume while it considers the merits. They are expected to issue a final ruling sometime this summer. Maybe June, July, a couple of months, possibly. Anyway. So be prepared, folks. If you're a conservative on any of these social media outlets, don't be surprised if, things start going bad for you, especially on those like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. But hey, free speech on Rumble. Free speech. Free speech over on Rumble. Speaking of which, that comes to the end of the program for tonight, folks. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, find the American Perspective channel and follow it, you can sign up on Rumble. Sign up for an account. It's free. Doesn't cost you a darn thing. And once you sign in and sign up, you can do things like chat with my Rumbler friends that are all there. Also, if you are on Rumble and have signed in, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. That's one of the major functions that Rumble uses in order to categorize and promote videos such as mine. All right, we will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. I got to go and fight the dandelions that Sean doesn't like either. I don't really care. I just mow the lawn. Anyway, we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.